Yeah, yep.
Oh, yes, okay. All right.
Gary?
Yes.
Sorry. For some reason, the mic isn't picking you up. It picks up everybody else, but the ceiling mic is not, no, the ceiling mic. So I'd ask that you speak up a little bit.
I will do that. All right. Okay. Thank you, Rob. All right. Let us convene the Town of Hanover Selectboard meeting for Monday, May 5th. Couple minutes late. Apologies. Let us look at the agenda. Are there any items for which members of the Select Board wish to reorder? Seeing none, then we move on to comments. This is the period of the agenda when the public is welcome to address the Select Board. We ask that one addresses issues that are already scheduled on the agenda. We ask that individuals restrict their comments to 5 minutes. Questions will be directed to the chair. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the Select Board this time? David, if you could please come forward.
My name's David Vincelette. I live at 93 Lebanon Street in Hanover. Last time I came to you, I asked you about the video feed, these screens, whether they were available to the public to use in their presentations. I never did get a direct answer.
I would ask the board whether it would be appropriate to have video provided, shared with the public that isn't screened by the board before it's shared, or at least staff.
I thought we had discussed this and we said that as long as it came to you and you had reviewed it, then you would control the screen and
Okay. Thank you.
Isn't that what we decided on last week? And
I mean, I think it has to be on the agenda. It's just not a random, like whatever the subject matter should be on the agenda.
But I can't get on the agenda. I've been trying for 20 years to get on the agenda.
So why don't you, if you have a video you'd like to share, why don't you send it to Rob and he can disseminate it to the Select Board and then we'll have to talk about it.
Okay. I'm a veteran. I spent 25 years in the military, and I'm a whistleblower about criminal activity that's gone on in the town of Hanover for quite a while. First, I was upset that the town was breaking the Clean Water Act by dumping contaminated asphalt waste onto town roads or washed into our drinking water. And I've tried to use this selectmen's meeting as a point of getting to people's attention, but it doesn't seem to be very effective. None of the outlets that would otherwise hopefully carry this do. The Daily Dartmouth has never interviewed me. Valley News refuses to cover federal crimes by government officials. The Alumni Magazine, when they took down the Indian symbol off the magazine, off the Dartmouth Tower because I had complained about it, never even interviewed me. Upper Valley internet groups have banned me for saying things that oppose the hospital. Hanover Podcast never mentioned that I was coming to the Select Board every couple of weeks to try to get somebody to listen. The FBI has me on a do not answer route, so I can't get my FBI to even talk to me. New Hampshire DOJ is about the same. Sion Baylock, I've called since August 15th of 2023 to account for Dartmouth polluting of stolen lands. She's never returned my calls. So it's kind of an uphill battle to get much done, but I have the duty as a veteran to defend the Constitution. And when I know for a fact Robert Hausman housed 9 human beings in a fenced-in area illegally, violation of our constitutional rights for 25 and a half months, I have to stand up, even if I'm going to be the only one. It's sad that this town is so deaf to what's going on right next door. All I hear about is this gangbanger who's down in El Salvador for a few weeks, who may have been wrongly sent there. We sat here for 2 years waiting, coming to you meeting after meeting, telling you what was going on with us. And yet we were left there with nothing to drink but brook water that you all have authorized to be polluted. 2 of the members of this board, Athos Rathius and Joanna Whitcomb, signed the letter to have us fenced into our property. Both of them were here when there was an agreement made by Peter Christie, then president of the select board, that my questions were not going to be answered. Because if they answered them, I would just ask more. And that is true. I will continue to ask questions until my questions are answered. The questions I have for you tonight are, how was the public warned of contaminated asphalt waste dumping by either Hanover or Dartmouth? Number 2, who was allowed to dump their asphalt waste in town holding areas on Guile Road for the town to spread? Number 3, how was Storrs Pond protected? Number 4, how were reservoirs protected? I would like you all, I think you have a responsibility to watch a YouTube video, The Siege of Mink Brook. It shows video evidence of us being held on our property. Thank you.
Other members, public. Seeing none.
May I interfere with your agenda and take a moment to introduce our new planning director?
Please.
Jen Murray, you're gonna come up? Introduce yourself to the board and the board can.
Jennifer Murray, I'm glad to be here. I'm in my second week. Knocked the power out of my first day. Yeah, no, I'm really thrilled to be here. It was a really good interview process, and I just can't say enough good things. I'm from Middlebury, Vermont. That was my previous job. I was there for about 9 years. Originally from upstate New York. So yeah, just soaking it all in.
We are very excited to have you.
Thank you.
So welcome and congratulations. And you're adding zoning and codes you didn't have before, is that right? So,
Right. Well, I was doing a lot of zoning and planning, but the codes is a brand new animal.
Okay.
It's been pretty fascinating.
Well,
Yeah.
welcome.
Well, welcome.
You got a great team. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm sorry. I didn't want to, she's had a long day and she has a dog at home, so.
Do you mind if I go join him? Yes, I stay alone in the new apartment.
We have a dog, what kind of dog?
He is a rescue from Puerto Rico, so he should be braver than this. He's a little corgi mix. Yeah, it was his first day alone in the apartment. And he was all shaky when I got back. So I don't know if there's thunderstorms in the forecast or what, but. Well, see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Tikari. Okay.
Wonderful.
See you again.
So we'll turn now to business requiring discussion, the first item of which is a financial review of the first 3 quarters of fiscal year 2025. So,
It is, and I think you all have the documents, and should have made a copy for, you know, I could put them up on the screen, but I think they're going to be very difficult to see. So, okay.
I have an extra one.
Yeah, there's actually here from office too.
oh yeah, that's true.
I just printed it. So.
Right out of the packet.
Yeah, thank you for putting that together.
Yeah.
So I think it's, as I said, I think it's the beginning of a process that we've been talking about. And I think look forward to, you know, back and forth and understanding, you know, what format, what information is, you know, communicates to you. and to the residents, the status of the town's financials. And so I would say that as of the end of the third quarter, that overall that the town is in excellent shape, both compared, to budget, both from a revenue standpoint and from an expenditure or appropriation standpoint. I do think when we take a look at a point in time, there are some things like the fact that our property taxes are all booked at once. So our revenue for the general fund looks, highly favorable. But I think in addition, in particular for the general fund, where we have overachievement in a couple of the categories of the revenue, and most particularly in the building and zoning permits, as well as our short-term interest revenue. So I think those were two really, standout items. And again, although we have technically 25% of the year left, we do in the fourth quarter, we do have 7 payrolls. So the amount of our personnel expenses, we will have more than 25% in the fourth quarter. Across the board, we do have some, particularly in the general fund, some favorability in our compensation numbers. We have had a number of open positions that are really driving that. And I think the other thing that we're seeing is that our benefits costs are so high, and they're highly sensitive to the makeup of our workforce. And so I think that we have favorability there, and I'm grateful for favorability as opposed to, being behind on that. So I think, again, across the board, not only for the general fund, but for all the funds, that I think we're in good shape. We are digging into a couple of things where we're seeing in Parks and Rec, our OST revenue is a little bit behind where we expect it to be. Even taking into account the fact that we budgeted for a childcare center and we're not doing that. So we are digging into, certain aspects of, at a higher level of detail, looking at each of the departments. But I think it's a discipline that's really important, and I really enjoy actually going through the process. And
What is OST?
Out of school time. So it's the after school and the programs.
And I know in your memorandum, Ellen, you suggested that things were sufficiently favorable that perhaps use of undesignated fund balance tax budget might not even be necessary.
Yes, yeah. And that's, I think with some of the favorability in the revenue that we've seen, that should drive that. And again, as I mentioned, we do have some pretty large expenditures that I do expect to occur before the end of the year. But I think there's, again, we will be in good shape.
And I know that maybe for the benefit of the board, and I really don't fully understand this either, but I know that when we talked about this and Rob pointed out, it's an awkward time because the encumbrance process is happening. Can you just remind us what the encumbrance process is?
Sure. So the encumbrance process is where dollars were budgeted for fiscal year 25 with the intention of those activities, projects, being complete in that time frame. But if there are very specific reasons why a project or expenditures can't be complete, then we do have a process where we can encumber funds, where we recognize the expense in the current fiscal year, but then spend them in the future years. So we are really working on having a very disciplined process around that, in that the dollars that we encumber need to be going towards the projects and the appropriations that town meeting meant them for. So really making sure that there isn't redirection of dollars. And we do that through a PO process. So we'll, take a look at and we, set a PO for the expenditures and have requirements for documentation.
Yeah, it was a purchase
I'm
order.
sorry, purchase order.
Okay. Thank you. Now, I had a question about parking, and I think it looked to me like we're benefiting from temporary parking unanticipated revenue, which I assume is construction related.
It is, it's a continuation of a couple of projects.
It's a windfall.
It is, and
No, for parking, I mean, it's a huge windfall, right?
yeah. But even without that windfall, we would, and at least I anticipate that we would have balanced our budget.
Yeah.
So that would go, any benefit or would accrue to the undesignated fund balance. So again, we have some large, we have one very large revenue item that comes in that is from the leasing of the garage to Dartmouth. So that invoice has gone to Dartmouth. So that'll be recognized. We are, again, for the parking garage revenue at this point, we had, at the end of March, had a roughly 30% left to achieve. We see in that fourth quarter, I looked historically, it's usually around 28%, so we should be close. We might have a little bit of a shortfall there.
You think some of that's from the lower level not being in service?
I don't think, having viewed the occupancy numbers, I don't think the lower level's the driver. Trying to figure out how to get people there.
Yeah.
And I think this is a study we're gonna kick off, will help us understand how we can play with the rates, specifically short-term rates, 2 to 3 hour windows to drive more occupancy and more use. But then wayfinding.
Yeah.
Do we have a sense about Saturdays and like football games and that being free instead of the previous year? What that impact was?
I don't know, and we can certainly look.
Yeah, because those are great days where people pay twice as much to pay, like to park, right, at Thompson.
The RFP that was developed for the parking study includes an analysis of those types of events.
Did you already post that RFP?
I have not.
Okay, that's fine.
I think it's been updated to reflect the comments that I've received. It has not been posted. It will be shortly.
Questions from Selectboard members? Any questions from? Okay, well, I for one am inordinately happy about this, so thank you. So, I think the intention is quarterly, we'll have something like this.
We will definitely have something quarterly, and then if something were to come up in the interim, we'll also do it as part of the town manager report, but definitely quarterly.
I think it's great.
I need to thank Ellen for coming up with the format and how well it reads and presents. It's easy to follow, even for a non-numbers guy. Thank you, Ellen.
Great.
So I know we're gonna talk about OKRs, and I wonder with the indulgence of the board, if we can switch to Selectboard Warrant articles first. Because I know that we may have some technical adjustments to discuss, so I'd rather do that first.
Oh, refresh.
While we're fresh, right? While Ellen's still here, so Ellen can go afterwards. But let's turn to the articles. And thank you, Kari, who called earlier, and there was, just so you're aware, there was a phone call, three-way phone call, Ellen, Kari, and I, just on a couple of numbers in warrant articles 10 and 11. And and a smaller, less substantive issue with respect to Article 13. So maybe we can first talk about those warrant articles, and then we'll go through and talk about assignments of presentation of warrant articles. So let me give this a shot at describing, and then Ellen and Kari, please jump in if I get this wrong. So with respect to warrant Article 10, you may recall that may not recall, I'm not sure we did recall at the time, but on April 7th, we did vote in the language around Article 10, which is the money going into the capital reserve funds. And on April 14th, we subsequently decided, hey, we really could put in another 500,000 from the undesignated fund balance. And this relates to, let me back up. This relates to specifically within Article 10, the sewer and water treatment numbers. So important to recognize. So we authorized on April 7th, money going into the sewer CRF of $357,000. Subsequently, on April 14th, we in a discussion, but we apparently did not vote to change the money going into the CRF. We said, hey, we should add the 500,000 from the undesignated fund balance, which was amply funded. And we were raising rates to defray future bond interest costs. So let's put in another 121,567. So we took the number from 357 to 978,567. So that number is what we intended in our discussion on April 14th, but we never went back and amended the amount for Article 10 in aggregate or in parts. So that is one issue. And maybe we'll stop there, then we'll go on to Article 11. So did I characterize it correctly? I think I did, but.
Kari asked this, who got her annual town report today and opened it up, and because I'm interested in capital reserve funds, was looking at numbers like, I don't remember these numbers. And so started to do a little bit of homework. And I would just say for both in this Article 10 for the sewer and the water capital reserve fund, the dates, I'm not sure you've got the timeline quite right, but the point is that the select board voted one set of numbers, and those numbers were subsequently revised without another select board vote. And the question is there a way to properly remedy that at town meeting? Because I have to say, as somebody who eventually goes through that scrutinizing moment of, writing the okay for money to go in and go out, I need to be sure that everything is completely in conformity with the process that it's supposed to be. I don't know, Ellen, if you have, I'm not really interested in getting into the exact how the number changed or whatever. It's just that the vote is not consistent with the numbers that are here.
I agree. And what Carrie and I walked through before the meeting is, again, that reconciliation between the numbers, and it does not create a vote, but if you reference all the budget documents at the top of both the water and the sewer budgets, there is a notation of the calculation for defraying for both of them. So the numbers have been published and have been presented. They were not voted on in this specific warrant.
So there is a path forward that I think is fairly simple. And that is whomever volunteers as a select board member to introduce this article introduces it acknowledging that the vote of the select board does not reflect this number, but as this represents a motion to amend to reflect the warrant article as published. Or the town meeting can amend any dollar amount, and that would clean it up.
I would check with our attorney, but I just, again, want to make sure that that the warrant has a complete good bill of health at the end of the day.
So,
Thank you for spotting.
and I think that this works for both 10 and 11.
And for 11, that is the one item that was added there, and I appear to be on the wrong page right now, was the 44,500 for the Municipal Transportation Improvement Fund. And Ellen and I have a little bit more experience adding this sort of thing to the warrant at the last minute, because this is what happened 2 years ago. And DRA seemed to be good with it, but our town attorney stood up at town meeting and disallowed the amendment. So now we have a full week before town meeting, so I'm hoping that we can get an agreement on all parts. Again, the point is for the warrant to have a good plain bill of health. The one thing I would add that I have questions about is that in the past, the Municipal Transportation Improvement Fund, because it's not a pure capital reserve fund, has always been a separate warrant article. I don't know if that's necessary, but that would be, as somebody again who will end up writing the checks, I would like to know if it needs to be a separate warrant article or not.
We did.
I think we voted on it, I just think it's normally a separate article.
Well, it is a separate warrant article, but you didn't, on what you voted on April, the first April meeting, did not have that listed. So it has been added to the list after the vote took place. And so the warrant article that you voted approval of was for $1,684,244. And now it's been changed since you voted on it. And the warrant needs to reflect what you voted.
So it's higher, this total is now higher by the 44,500,
Yes.
right?
Yes, and again, if,
I thought we voted on it as a separate.
So we voted on the deposits into the Municipal
separate-
Transportation Improvement Fund.
yes,
And that is on Article,
Oh, so the
No.
question is whether
Article
the
nine.
taking it out can be part of this?
can be added. And
But we
the-
also, we voted on the taking it out because we talked about Maple Street.
no, if you watch if you look at the warrants, the draft warrants that were before you that you voted on, it wasn't in there. And if you rewatch the, the damn meetings, there was not a discussion of taking the money out. There may have been during the budget hearing discussion of that. I haven't, but in terms of this warrant article, the amount that was voted on was different.
And again, I think I'll run this by Laura. I think the approach is the same. The select board introducing that article simply acknowledged that the warrant article does not reflect the dollar amount voted on by the select board, and that this is an amendment to reflect what was printed.
And 2 years ago, her argument was that you can't go from a zero to an amount, whereas you can on these other ones, where you have an amount and you can adjust them up or down. So that is really, again, the question for her, but given that she had a more strict interpretation 2 years ago than the Department of Revenue Administration, I think, if, again, there's a week, hopefully there can come to be a good understanding of that. And then again, my question is just, does it need to be a separate one?
Yeah, if it needs to be a separate warrant article, then can we do that from the floor?
I'll ask those questions. And acknowledging that it's been a while since I've had to go through a town meeting warrant development, this is a learning curve for me, a relearning. And the community I previously worked in was an SB2 town, so 20 years of a very different structure. Bear with me.
Of course, and I feel I should have given this a second set of eyes too, so
And I feel I could have done it on the 14th, you know, but.
I wasn't here on the 7th.
So with this acknowledgement, going forward, we'll have a sweeping motion to fully amend the budget at the conclusion of.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you for
Thank you, Governor.
Okay, and then there was the one very
And
small.
With respect to Article 13, this is a somewhat less substantive, but important nonetheless. The last sentence, and furthermore to name the selectmen as agents to expend,
Yeah.
that was meant to be struck. So.
And it was struck on the 14th, and now somehow it has snuck itself back in.
So,
And this one I would address as the scrivener's error.
okay.
I mean, whoever presents the article can simply acknowledge that as a scrivener's error. We had enough versions of this going around that somehow it stayed in.
Expression for a scrivener's error. Okay,
Personally.
I started using that a lot.
Sorry, you said this is for 15?
Scriveners,
13, so what is the,
last sentence in 13. Or
It
the,
should be, plus it said select. I
Yeah.
had already identified that as a
Another
problem.
reason to strike it.
Non-selectmen.
the position is that the select board does not have the authorization that requires town meeting vote to expend the funds.
right, yeah, we discussed that.
Okay, so thank you for your attention to these details.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
think hopefully it'll just create smooth sailing,
Smooth sailing we like.
yes, going
Thank you.
forward.
Thank you, Greg.
So there was nothing on 15, I just misheard.
So 15.
It was 10, 11, and 13.
10, 11, and 13, correct. Okay. Those changes in mind, perhaps we can now go through and assign warrant articles. I do think some of these kind of go together, but the first two definitely do not. So the first is fence sitters. I feel like by tradition, this goes to the junior most select board members.
Junior?
Did you make that up?
Yeah, I think we, yeah.
Okay, Jared, sure. Okay, all right.
Do we actually have candidates?
Yes,
Ask.
we have a full slate.
And it's usually fun to say what these are, because most of the people in the audience don't know what a fence viewer is.
Right, is there a,
We'll give you in the backup, an explanation. We'll give you a Word document that you can use that frame the script.
Very nice.
Where were you lost? This is a no.
All right, Article 6 is the $100,000. This kind of does require a little bit, it's a little, right, what's going on here? Climate project, $100,000. Takers, by the way.
Well, let's,
I could see that.
yeah, but let's also, I mean, there's 26, or we only do the first 21.
We do 5 through 21.
And so that means there's 5 of us, so we all do about 4. Something like that, but
Yes.
some people have bigger lifts than others, like in terms of the budget or.
Yes, and I will put out there that I was willing to budget with your acquiescence.
Fine with me.
Yeah, okay, all right, fine, okay. So I have Article 18. And Athos has foolishly said he'll take whatever we get, so. All right, so Jenny, you wanted to do,
Want to do 6, 7, 8, and 9?
Sure.
6.
They all kind of.
Yeah, they all kind of go together.
And it might even be 10 if we have to pull it out, but I don't know if you. Because 10 might be spending or 9.5.
Right, so. Oh, if we have 7 more, we don't know that yet. 10 and 11 are gonna be long, they are always long, even before the complication we just discussed, so they will be especially.
Okay, I'm not, I have to get behaving, I'm sorry.
mean,
What do you think?
yeah,
Whatever.
I'm
This is
happy.
the one that Nancy used to do. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
fine
happy to
doing
do it. Nancy really made a meal out of it, and I don't know if I could live up to her.
Yeah.
Charm and poise. But I'd be happy to try it.
You wanna keep going?
Well,
Sure.
then that means you're doing.
I know, it's
Just
like a
do
lot,
4.
but then I'd be done.
Well, you'd only have to do, because we have 20,
Well,
so we only have to do 4 pieces.
Here's what I recommend.
Right.
Joanna, if you're willing to do 10 and 11,
That's just two,
and then
because those are long, those are
those
long enough to
and
be
then,
like,
but then we have 3 CRFs that are changing, merging, changing name.
put those together.
Yeah, so 12, 13, and 14, I think are kind of a package.
And 15 and 16.
15 and 16 go together. Fire. You, Jared? Sure. So 15 and 16, fire,
A lot of J's here, I'm just noticing.
there are a lot of J's.
Right.
So what do we do for 12, 13, 14? They're all CRF related. Discontinuing the bridge capital reserve, changing the purpose of road construction to the road right of way. And then building maintenance becoming capital facilities.
I can do this if you want.
Just 3?
So wait, Jenny, you got 6, 7, 8, 9, and then
Essentially 12, 13, 14.
12, 13, 14. Okay, that's more than your fair share.
I don't have to do them all.
Um,
Whatever you guys want. If it looked like we were looking for someone to do them.
Yes, sweetie, don't forget we have.
I'll just put the J and then I'll leave the rest
I can flip a coin on Tuesday night. Okay.
open. Cause where are we sticking Athos?
We haven't, yeah.
Maybe,
Well, maybe those are Athoses then. But then we have,
Then
we have a bunch
union.
later, right? We have, well, Jared just said he'd take,
Take
15 and 16.
Yep.
And then there's left 17, 19, 20, 21. Right? Yeah.
yes, in 19, 20, 21 kind of all go together. They're pretty
Okay.
straightforward. We're giving enough to others.
We could give him those 3. Or I could. I'm doing 2. So I mean, I can do some.
Well, we should give others.
Yeah, oh no, give up, so. Okay, Jenny, you're doing 12, 13.
Yeah, we have like a 12, 13, 14 chunk. We have a 19, 20, 21 chunk, and we have a 17. Maybe that gives them to Athos.
So what do we give the last ones to Athos? 20, 19, 20, and 21?
Yeah. And the contingency fund also 17. Others.
For sure. Sure.
So 17. And then 19, 20, 21.
and Johnny, you're doing 10, 11.
So I only have to do 2.
They're big ones.
Unless you wanted to,
Yeah.
12, 13, 14. I think yours are still longer than all the other ones.
I'm fine.
Yours are really long.
Well, I think they're confusing too, so we'll study it.
Yeah.
I'll get some.
And the petition ones are not presented.
Petitioners hopefully will present.
And if not, the moderator reads them.
Yeah, and we have a slide. Each warrant article will have a slide. And that if there is any additional slide deck that you want to include, I'll just need it to add.
Yes, all right.
Let's start again. So on the petition warrant articles, I agree, it's ideally the petitioners, but I would say that one of the questions that often comes up, and it wasn't in the at least I didn't see it in the annual report yet, and maybe there, I just haven't seen it yet. But the question always comes up, which ones are binding, and which ones are advisory? And so if that information could be ready.
It is ready.
I mean,
Okay.
I think it is ready.
oh, it is in there?
No, it's not in the report.
Okay,
I had an opportunity to speak with Laura this afternoon.
And I don't need the answer right now, but I know that's one of the things that can influence the discussion.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And would that be part of the discussion of each of the articles?
So the short answer is yes. What's interesting is if it's under the select board power under 39 to adopt an ordinance, and the ordinance language is included, so the petition for gender neutral, take that for example. Petition itself is a general statement, but because they included all the changes as their submittal, Laura is of the opinion that it's not advisory, it must be done. It would be something staff would carry out. We don't need to change the signature plate and re-adopt them. It's just simply acknowledging where the footer or header, the town meeting warrant changed. We have a reasonable amount of time to get it accomplished.
Well, and as I read that, the past revisions to history, which we have a very long history as a municipality, that is not mandated. Like we have to go back and change everything that's not in this town, right?
It's only those active ordinances that have been adopted that I believe was included.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on warrant article assignments? Let's go on to objectives and key results.
Can we just talk a little bit more about town meeting?
Yes, of course.
I did talk to Jeremy, and he expects us to be there promptly at 7 to open the poll on Tuesday, and he asked if I had found my pro temp, because he expects all 4 of us. Actually, we should get clarification, because Athens can't be there because she's in the election. So,
I talked to Bob.
yeah, go ahead.
I talked to Bobby about that,
Yeah.
and because he's also an election official, election officials are allowed to be there, because otherwise they couldn't. All the election officials could not be there. So they make an exception for election. In his capacity as an election official, he could be there. This was Bobby's determination.
We've never, that's fine,
Okay.
but I mean, whenever you've run, like, last year, I wasn't allowed to cover my time. So I don't really, it seems kind of weird to be in the polling area and you being on the ballot.
So Bobby and I had this discussion last week, and the election official clause is specifically in the statute that it's exempted from it. So town clerk is an elected official. The supervisors that check are elected officials. Imagine in a town where the same person holds the position for years, they could not operate, couldn't sit if they didn't have that exempted. I think that in this situation, the select board are elected officials, election officials, because they're there by statute to open the polls and monitor them. Athos could have a pro temp president. And we only need a quorum of the board, I believe. Ideally, you have the full board at the opening, but you need a quorum.
Oh, I think Jeremy thought we should all be there for the opening ceremonies.
Yes, I know.
And then he expected us to have pro temps.
And there's heightened expectation around this election because we're using special equipment that's being tested. The expectation of the state will have representatives here to monitor. So there is some heightened expectation.
So let's assume for purposes of this discussion that Athos is not part of the mix and that it's just the 4 of us. So we need ideally all of us at 7 a.m. and then throughout the day between us or our pro temps. So there's 4 of us, 12 hours, 3-hour shifts, 4-hour shifts.
I could be in the morning.
One of us,
One of us would
blocks,
be-
3 4-hour blocks or 4 3-hour blocks, what's your preference?
4-hour blocks, but we would each be there for 2 blocks and be gone for 1. Is that what you're suggesting?
Thinking that math. Let's see.
Yeah.
7,
7 to 7.
3, 3 to 7, right?
So I just got a text from someone that said CATV isn't broadcasting. I was just gonna ask. Lock screen.
So I can do 7 to 11. And I can also do 11 to 3.
Each in the middle. I can do the morning.
So you'd like to do.
Then I won't want to split any of them. I can do 7 till 2. It's not very helpful if it's not
So you-
working with our
Okay, so
thing.
you could do 7 to 2.
7, yeah, I teach it 2A.
So you can do 7 to 2. Okay, so we would need
Then I can come back.
1 more in the morning. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Should.
Yeah, like at 5.
I could do 9 to 2.
Yeah.
Thank you.
2.
I could do it 4. So,
47.
Yeah, we're missing like this, 2 to 3.
Yeah, Jared, how do you look?
I just have class there.
I'm
Just tell them to meet.
2 o'clock.
Yeah, that's fine. I would love it if I could be at the restaurant in the morning. I mean, I know I'll be there at 7, but if I could get back.
You do 2 to 7.
Yeah.
2 to 7. Yep.
I think we're just missing an hour with the form between 2 and 3.
yeah, that's-
Be a pro temp.
Yeah, you can have it. You can have pro temp. So if we had 1 pro temp from 2 to 3, we'd be all set.
And that's all you need there from 2 until.
Just 2 to 3 pro temp.
Oh,
So wait a minute, so what did I just commit?
but it's somebody else. It
You
can't be my
commit
part-time.
9 to 2. And 4 to 7.
And 9 to 2 and 4 to
No,
7.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's too much.
Okay.
That's like 8 hours.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, are we all doing, I think he has it set up so that we all do 8 hours.
Is that what you're doing?
So I have
Oh, yeah, that makes
7
sense.
to
Right,
2.
right, right, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's 2 blocks, so I have 7 to 2.
Yeah, and that includes, that could be a pro temp as well. Yeah.
So I'll do
we'll
7 to 2 and 4 to 7. That's what I said.
Wait, we'll do 7 to 2.
Oh, not 9 to 2?
No.
7 to 2.
No. I'm sorry. 9 to 2
9 to 2.
and then 4 to 7.
So,
Okay.
So we just need 1 more 7 to 9 with pro temp and 2 to 3. So why don't I follow up with the schedule and just say, can you find a designee to be your pro temp?
Yep.
Oh, I guess you could. She could be, she's available.
I think
Deb was my pro tem.
Yes.
She was awesome.
There you go. Well,
And they can be appointed the day of.
okay, yeah.
So if you're standing there and see a poll worker who's gonna be around.
So long as they're not easy side. Okay. Okay, thank you. Anything else with respect to town meeting? No? Okay. Let's turn to OKRs. This doesn't have to be a long conversation. We distributed these once more. This was really kind of the subject of the summary that you all saw in the submission from the select board for the town annual report. It kind of went through and gave ourselves, what we did, what we didn't do. So with your permissions, I will probably have a slide like this in the budget presentation about what the select board was involved with. And I also hesitate, it's not really the select board just does the work, we just kind of, do the conducting on the side, but but anyway, this is what we said were our objectives and just how do we score ourselves. So I'll probably put in one slide like that. Budget. Okay. I'll try and get those slides sent around ahead of time, so you guys get a sense of what that looks like. So unless there's any further discussion on that, we can move on to business requiring action. Actually, we move on to the town manager monthly report. Anything else though on OKR's report?
I was just thinking when we had the budget presentations and the departments, they all kind of presented it with their mission. It seemed like some of the KPIs would flow out of that nicely. So I didn't go back and assemble them because I don't know if I have access.
They're all on the website.
Okay.
Town manager's page.
Okay. But that just might be a way to get those key performance indicators that are referenced on here. Not, or some of them.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about this, and I think it's an ambition that I think we share, that we would maybe have more of those key performance indicators, maybe even like some sort of a dashboard, so that we could, and I guess we're not quite there yet, but I know within the annual department head reports, there was, with these infographics, we definitely took a stab in that direction, which I think is helpful. And I think maybe it continues to evolve next year where we can do something that's a little more like KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Thank you. So the town manager report.
Thank you. Fire department, we have one vacancy. The vacancy is moving forward with recruitment. We have one, they've gone through a selection process with 3 candidates. They've made an offer to someone who has substantial experience with a desired start date the first week of June. It looks like we're proceeding quickly on that. So we're excited to have the department up to full strength as of June, the first week of June. Training, both PD and fire department have launched a mental health initiative. The fire department has hired a professional to meet with the department and staff and family members to deal with their mental well-being. Department-wide session was held already, and their proposal is that staff members will have the opportunity to attend 3-day peer support training in May, and annual checkups with the consultant on an annual basis. Notable calls, the duty crews had 2 cardiac arrest saves in April, and it's noted that there's been an uptick in saves, and there's many factors that contribute to that, including AEDs throughout the community and increased bystander CPR training. So a great opportunity to give a shout out to the community, to the AED program we have distributed, and to our crews. So acknowledging that. Jen Murray started last Monday. I will acknowledge that I no longer have a safety net. This tightrope act is done without a safety net, meaning I have no place to fall back to. But I am grateful to have her here, and she's jumped in with both feet, and I'm excited to see her lead that department forward. And we do have a vacancy in the rental housing inspector. We had an interview. We are evaluating the candidate, but I suspect we'll be going back out to advertise because of the want to have the right person to launch this program and to move it forward. I think the challenge for us is that it has to be created, and we need to make sure it's successful from the start. So I'm being very cautious. We do have a vacancy, as I announced previously, in the sustainability coordinator. Interviews are scheduled. Initial interview with one candidate scheduled hopefully this week. We have 4 more candidates we're going to try to get in the next 2 weeks and create a short list that we can then build on to bring back for final interviews with the expectation that we have someone on board for July 1. So that's moving forward. Public Works, we have a new hire in light and heavy equipment, started April 28th, and we have a vacancy that just happened. So we were full staff for about 8 hours. We've had a lot of training, which is good for the Public Works Department. A range of training from Gorman Pump, RUP Pump School, to New Hampshire DES, SRF, and grant training sessions. The staff that have attended training is Richard Shower, Christina Hall and Pete, Kevin McLean and Christina Hall, Maura Anderson, Dan Morrissey, Chris Berry, Mike Timlake, Dave Field, and Mark Bean, Dylan Petit, Tim Keener, Ryan Chisholm, and Mike Timberlake, and Steve Daly, and Jim Craig, Mark Bean, and Dave Field. It's a range of training. It's a mix. Things like flagger training so that we can have proper traffic control without having the detail, to technology training. So this is an impressive list. Maura Anderson has also passed a water treatment exam. So she's a level 1 water treatment plant operator. So kudos to her. Projects in the works are downtown street and sidewalks have been swept. Benchmarks and bike racks were reinstalled for the warmer season. Field work has begun for drainage assessment management project field, which is funded by a grant focusing on Maple and West Wheelock Street areas. The annual capital management operations and maintenance report was submitted to the US EPA and New Hampshire DES. Christina Hall and Dylan McDermott met with New Hampshire DES and EPA reps to identify residential brass service test sites for a nationwide study. We are a select community that's been targeted. They're looking to actually test 8 homes specifically that have brass fittings to see if the removal changes the water quality. And EPA is on site as of today. So that's underway. A draft update to the wastewater intermunicipal agreement, which is with the city of Lebanon, has been sent to them for review. Additional outreach for the upcoming water system upgrade project starting on April 30th is being provided through a dedicated project webpage, offering street-by-street impacts, scheduling changes, and project updates. The town received notice of funding release for the Long Island Sound Futures Fund with a $1.5 million grant to support nitrogen removal improvements. You'll be acting on this hopefully shortly to authorize the acceptance of these funds and move that forward. And the national NPDES medium general permit, we have no update. That's our wastewater discharge permit. We have no update based, as you may recall, Pete asked for an extension so we could file comments. We received a 90-day extension. We provided, I believe, 11 pages of comments and haven't gotten feedback on that.
Can we take a technical
Yeah.
time out, because I understand from a diligent watcher that sound is out. Is that right, Nick? We not,
No sound, just orchestral music. And
Orchestral
the
music.
typing, it's being translated and it's blurry and it's on delay. So, sorry. Dedicated taxpayer
yes, absolutely.
saying I wanna watch, but I can't take it any longer. I think so painful is in quotes here. So I don't know what's happening, but we are getting a little feedback.
Someone's out there watching, Nick. All right. Playback.
It sounds fine on mine.
Okay,
All right, thank you. All right,
duly noted.
thank you. Okay, back to other matters under.
Sure. The road ban was lifted early this year due to a relatively mild mud season. And the CPC NH update is available on the website. The link is in the package. Police, Henry II has completed his physical test and is moving forward on the attendance at the academy starting today. Vacancy, we have one officer in the queue for the May 5th academy, but has withdrawn. So we're going back out. We do have awards and recognitions. Corporal Tim Mina named the Officer of the Year for 2024, and Communications Supervisor Tim Goodwin named the 2024 Civilian Employee of the Year. A formal ceremony and promotion ceremony will be scheduled. I do want to also note that we have 3 promotions that will be part of that program. Sergeant Dan Pollard will be promoted to lieutenant. Corporal Joe Landry will be promoted to sergeant, and Officer Aaron Frank will be promoted to corporal. So those are all also in the works. This promotion process was made possible by the chief stepping up, the lieutenant moving into captain's position, a lieutenant. So the internal hire opportunity, promotion opportunity presented itself through this process. So kudos to the police department for making these moves. And my hope is we're fully staffed for the first time in 10 years in the not too distant future. They're moving forward and launching a Hanover video setup called HPD The Voice soon. And they've also had their peer support work group will be held in 2 weeks, or was held 2 weeks ago, including staff, department volunteers, retired officers, and a community face leader. The program continues to focus on building wellness and resilience tailored towards the department's needs.
I would maybe suggest, if I could, there is something possibly wrong with it putting out to cable, but our YouTube is working. You can watch that.
YouTube is working, but,
Yeah.
but not the cable.
The computer, we stream it out to the cable, we had to replace it just today. So that was.
Is there any way you can post the YouTube link on this?
It's on our channel. You mean in the Zoom or?
Somewhere on the screen, could you
I could try. It's-
caption? that would
Just
say-
to,
Well,
just
you
to put it
could-
in the chat, kind of.
That's what's coming, you can see what's coming on the screen there. Their transcript is at the bottom.
Caption,
Yeah.
closed caption.
Yeah.
So Rob, thank you for that report. I know there's a lot of detail, but it's really, I think, great for not just the select board, but for the community to hear all of the good work, training, promotions, achievements. It really brings to life something that we don't always get to appreciate. So thank you.
Work on making sure all the departments submit updates more regularly.
Thank you. Jim Brooks? Okay. All right. thank you for that. Let's go next into business requiring action. And 8A is approval of March 24th. And then April 7th and April 14th select board minutes. We can do them as a package unless select board members have any items they'd like to amend.
I won't be voting on April 7th, we're abstaining.
So let's do them one by one.
I'll move to approve the March 24th, 2025.
Give seconds.
The signature on these isn't usually my signature.
Should be. So on the minutes.
Yes, usually the minutes are submitted by the secretary.
Yeah.
But these all have Jessica Merchant's.
She did the trans.
She's submitting it to us, which I guess I would,
Submit.
so
So
I tend to think that has to be.
change. So shall I move to approve with the amendment?
With the amendment that-
it's submitted prior to the secretary of the board, Jared.
All right, we have.
And we've discussed.
Yes, we have, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. April 7th,
Second and amend signature, second to last page.
okay, first, yeah, so, I think Jared conferred by my saying April 7th, that constitutes the motion. But, and that will be the motion, so, so you second it,
Yeah.
okay.
Also, my name is, my name is spelled wrong in a couple different places, but again, Scrivener's errors. Berke, formerly Berkowitz, but changed on Ellis Islands some 90 years ago.
Yeah, by Mr. Scrivener.
By some Scrivener, who liked Burke a lot better than Berkowitz.
Okay. All right, first and second, all those in favor? Aye. Abstention.
I will abstain.
Abstain, all right. April 14th. That constitutes a motion. All those,
I will second,
okay,
and then this one,
change the signature to Jarrett.
and then this one, I think my name was spelled right.
Oh, back to Jerry. Looking for the G in Callahan, come on. All right. All right, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, okay. Okay, donation request, Storage Pond Recreation Area on behalf of the Hanover Society Bressett Fund. There's a memorandum about this. Rob, do you want to walk us through this, please?
I can find it. Yes, in your packet, you'll see a request from the Hanover Improvement Society regarding funds for Storrs Pond specifically. And this paste memo.
Yes. There's definitely gonna be electronic version.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going.
And in my memo, I sort of stepped through the analysis of whether it qualifies or not. And I'll start with the funding request for participation at the pond. It's there.
It's after all this.
It's right.
That's Jeff's request after the minutes.
Page 31.
Thank you.
Well, that's like actually, that's not your breakdown. Your breakdown's on 32.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's their breakdown. Yeah, your breakdown's earlier, sorry.
It's actually on page 2.
Yeah, it's reading it.
Page 1 and page 2. Sorry, it's page 1 and page 2, and then a repeat of page 1, which is your memorandum.
Page 4 of the document,
Thank you.
staff analysis.
Thank you both. So there's $40,000 being requested from the Bressett Fund to support swim lesson staffing, administration, and insurance. This supports seasonal personnel delivering community youth swim instructions, clearly benefits the Hanover residents, and is programmatic and operational. And then the tennis program staff and supplies covers wages for instructors and expendable materials, balls and rackets, directly ties to our the ongoing youth and adult education program, and $10,000 for family scholarships, promotes equitable access to underserved families, aligns with the Bressett Fund, and broad community benefit and inclusion, eligible program equipment, not bricks and mortar, watercraft replacement, kayak, canoes, paddles, and paddle boards and paddles, acceptable as a non-capital seasonal use gear that's essential for program delivery, personal flotation devices, PFDs, eligible as safety equipment, likely eligible as safety equipment. It's a consumable nature, non-capital classification, and lifeguards, safety tool required for programming, not facility upgrades. Obviously, any action by this board also requires action by the trustees of the trust fund. So if this board were inclined to approve it, it would be subject to the trustees finding it complies with the funding requirements of the Bressett Fund. I believe in the broad general overview that the proposed request as outlined in the Hanover Improvement Society request and in my analysis meets the criteria. However, the trustees ultimately have to resolve that. The question is the board willing to support this going forward for the trustees' consideration?
This would be a fiscal year 25 request.
No. Well, that's a great question. Fiscal year 25 ends June
right.
1st. That's a great question in that we're carrying the full amount of the fiscal year 2026.
So it would have to be July 1, because we're not futzing.
Yes.
For what's there. I mean, storage pilot basically is open for 10 weeks, so it would be 5 weeks.
So if this moved forward, it could be a reimbursement.
Yeah, I'm sure they can.
Oh, yeah, sure, they would, they run a deficit, so.
I do note that Hanover Parks and Rec, the OST program, the summer camp program, goes down here and benefits from all of these elements. This will help defray the cost increase that would otherwise be passed on to not only the summer program, but all users.
I don't remember what other commitments we've made with the Bressett Fund or that have been made.
The Mustard Day Parade,
Mustard
Mustard
Day.
Day.
That's the only one.
That's the only one in this.
we're like
And then we
4,500.
discussed a couple other.
There were 3 proposals that I made that were presented to the trustees of the trust fund. The downtown wayfinding, digitization of records and the history walk.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that the history walk was the only one that the town council felt could reach the threshold of the trust funding mechanism. The trustees have not acted. We haven't brought it back for their consideration. So that would be a 2026, FY26 funding opportunity. And I did share, I think, the 250th anniversary history walk from 2011, I think the paper version. So looking to build on that.
And in the last downtown meeting or second one ago, the Hanover History, I can't remember the name of their organization, but
Historical Society.
Historical Society, yeah. They were starting to work on this downtown history walk.
Was there an application that came forward? Like a process? There was some talk of,
We're working.
okay,
I actually think that, given that we can't distribute the funds till FY26, I think we should have a process that we're not making that decision here, that there's actually a process. I don't know, I mean, there was an application, do we want to, we had talked about, we kind of punted this and, okay, we're gonna do it in FY20. Carry over. In the application, talked about, should we be advertising? Is it gonna be just in, the select board making a decision? So, I mean, I think it'd be smart if we came up with, not necessarily first come, first serve, but, is this a priority of, was it aligned with their OKRs? I don't know. It feels like we should be a little more rigorous and full disclosure. I'm a member of the Hanover Improvement Society and have been for 15 years. So in my heart of hearts, I swim at the response, so I want to see them successful. But I think in fairness, we should have a process. That's just my 2 cents.
Jared, I think you were in attendance of the last trustees meeting, and we left that meeting having met with council with me volunteering to come up with the process, and that's on the to-do list with hopes that it gets done in the next 30 to 45 days.
Mutually exclusive. We could move forward on this as since summer is upon us almost. Still come up with a process. I mean, are we, by going down this road, are we setting some sort of precedent that we will always make this sort of a commitment to Hanover Improvement Society? It's a one-time thing, right? This is not necessarily.
This is a one-off ask.
Yeah.
I think if they have a commitment to this money, then they would figure out a way to purchase this before the summer starts. But I also
That's true. Forgot about the PFDs.
Yeah, I also agree that we need to have a better request process and a little more diligence on how these are decided on and how much is available. Because I think the request process is great, and that's a really good way for us to figure out what the needs are for the community. But also, the trust document basically says that the select board should, the select board is responsible for spending money. Concert with the trustees. And so I think there's a duty on the select board to figure out what those priorities are, where those needs are, and not just wait till people come to us and make these requests, because I just don't think that's the best way.
I don't know how we know what all the needs are if we weren't accepting people's like
Oh, no,
applications.
Yeah.
Um,
I definitely think we,
So,
yeah, I
yeah.
agree, but I also think that we could. In addition to people coming and asking, I think we should be leading too and saying.
yeah, we have a whole like sustainability master plan and lots of like great ideas. I think there's so much good stuff in this that we benefit from as a community, that are activities that are like what we're looking for. So in that way, it's like a very strong application.
Okay. I will stand down.
Well,
No,
But I don't know if,
No,
yeah.
that's.
I think the only thing, just because we don't have an
No,
official
no,
application
no.
process, like I think there probably other people who maybe would have applied.
And they still can,
And they
because
still
there's like
Yeah.
$300,000
Yeah.
in July 1, so.
There we go.
But I actually have been convinced that, you know, the season is really short, and I've seen their boats and their lifeguard stuff, and so it would be good for them to know that the money was coming July 1.
Their boats are less good than they used to be.
So I agree.
Okay. So there is a suggested motion. I'll read it. Subject to the Bressett Fund compliance approval by the trustees of the trust funds, I move to approve the donation from the Bressett Fund and on behalf of the Hanover Improvement Society in the amount of $67,000 for the Stores Pond Recreation Area. That constitutes a motion.
Second.
Second. Any commentary before we vote?
Just say I'd love to see it so that people can walk down there more easily. There's a kind of janky road that, it was actually very obvious before it's Sarah season, because there are people who walk down there and it's very difficult. It should be something that is easy to walk to rather than difficult to walk to.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that, you know, if they can run all their programs well, that maybe they could invest in having a walking path down there. That's really important. It's right there in the neighborhood and it's steep. It's steep and there are all these kids who use it, and it's really hard when people are driving, particularly in both directions.
It's very tight. Anything you wanted to add? Okay, all right. Motion's on the table. I'll move the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we have 8 items by consent. Are there any items which select board members might wish to pull out of the consent agenda?
YouTube's working, thanks, Nick. Not the same.
Anything that anyone would like to pull out of the consent agenda, we can circle back with thank you to motions, but. So let's take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So Renee Sullivan, is this who the board put forward? Because this isn't who came to the CIPC meeting, right?
Correct. Yes, this is a different person, but you know, Renee Sullivan is the choice of the school board to join the capital.
Can we take that out? Can we take the appointment out?
Certainly.
So we can just talk about that.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll take item 2 out. Any other items which we would like to take out? No, okay, so I will amend the motion to the consent agenda as presented, accepting item number 2. Is there a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone want to circle back on the donations with thank yous?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to thank the Dorothy Byrne Foundation, or Dorothy Byrne, for a $7,000 grant associated with building additional bookcases in the Etna Library. Etna Library donations, $20 from Jeremy Merritt and Emily Beolson, $100 from Scott Hammond, $300 from New Hampshire Community Council, Inc. Fire department donations consisted of a vehicle from the town of Lyme for training purposes, a vehicle from Gary Tibbetts for training purposes, and a vehicle from Catherine Gibson for training purpose. Donation to Parks and Rec in the amount of $1,278 for Welcome to Hanover banner. Light pole banner requests, so yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for those. Okay. Appointments.
So, we do a lot of appointments, to CIPC. Well, CIPC is the recommendation, so select board makes the appointment, even though the school board makes the recommendation.
We have to.
Right, formalize it, we have to do that for Conservation Commission, Planning Board, and then we're coming up on kind of the post-town meeting appointments, and I was just, having served on a number of the committees, trust for fund, trustees of trust funds, the advisory board of assessors, state ability committee. I think it would really be helpful, and Rob, I'm looking at you and your staff to see if it would be great to have kind of a cheat sheet with all of the committees and planning boards, and or like all of the different boards, that not only the ones that we appoint,
Boards, commissions and committees, right?
yes,
Yeah.
boards and advisory committees.
Yeah.
What are, in addition to kind of how many people serve on each of these committees, but it would be good for me to know, and I don't know how the rest of you feel. Are we, if we are serving, and this goes to us as our post-town meeting reorg, if we're serving as representatives on these committees, are we voting members, non-voting members? Are we a liaison? Are we, and what is our job? And then, it would be helpful to know how many other people serve on each of these boards, committees, and commissions. Is that clear, or is that kind of muddy? It just feels like there's a lot of committees, and I also feel like in terms of we have a petition amendment asking for all of our select board meetings to be Zoom and for participation, and I think it's important for everyone to know what our jobs are as select board, as well as for us to know what our roles and responsibilities are on these committees. So can that happen, Rob?
Yes.
Is that okay with us? Okay. So before we do appointments, and we reorg the board after time. And I don't know, is that something that could be done? Maybe there's a policy that we have to adopt that says, this is how we do this, but.
Good, thank you.
Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Do you want to move on the?
I don't think so.
Okay. On the
Just more
appointments?
like telling us, move on the appointments, yeah, I guess we can do that.
Okay. Surprised that.
Well, I mean, Jenny you had a question about the appointments, actual appointments, the CIPC.
Oh, I just
You
was
said-
asking, but it seemed like a different person than I had met. I was just confirming that.
Yes.
Do we,
Yeah, no,
did they send any information over, or is this just it, just what we get?
Is get the information, just the name, so.
Can you? Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, well, I figured I probably would end up watching this anyway, so just since
Well, it might have been hard tonight,
that's
but
right.
now it's on YouTube, thanks,
And
Nick.
now I've heard it all. So anyway, so Renee, you may recall that Kim Hartman stepped down from the school board shortly after the March elections. And they had a process by which they fielded 7 applicants to fill that vacancy. Really, again, wonderful Hanover town. You shake the tree and all these wonderful apples candidates fall out. And Renee's resume is available online. She just has extensive
Oh,
background.
is Renee the new person who was appointed?
What's that?
Is she the new person who
Yeah,
joined?
so,
Okay.
yes, so that was where I was headed.
Yeah,
So
good.
she's brand new. to
I was
this.
just trying to picture somebody.
Yeah, but so, yeah, and it wasn't the person who attended the one CIPC meeting. But Renee, you can see her resume online and she just has extensive background in the field of education, but also high numeracy skills, which is I know that they were looking for after Kim Hartman stepped down. So I am assuming that her interest in and ability to crunch numbers or whatever led her to be the candidate for the CIPC.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I move that we appoint the said members to Conservation Commission, CIPC, and School Board. Yes, okay. And McEnany to the Conservation Commission as an alternate member, Renee Sullivan to the School Board representative to the CIPC, Rob Starkey, Janet Starkey, Michelle Shembri, and Sandra Sheep. Election officials.
Second.
Second.
Jenny, all right, all those in favor?
I
Terrific. That's it, select board reports. Garrett.
Okay, after our last select board meeting, I attended a trustees meeting in this place. A pretty interesting brief from Matt Driscoll, or I'm sorry, from Matt Titilio on just how our fund managers are viewing the current economic situation. And just tariffs and yields and all that kind of stuff. A lot of uncertainty, but as of right now, you know, the fund is still doing really well. Bressett funds, I wrote down 270,000, which I believe is kind of where it's sitting right now for what is expendable going into next year. And we discussed at length the guidelines for the Bressett fund, which I guess were done in 2019 and then again in 2023, and now we're kind of looking at it again to formalize those guidelines and how the select board works with the trustees to have a much more solid process for deciding how those funds are expended. That's about it.
Okay. Thank you. Hanover Finance Committee is meeting this Thursday. And the CIPC is meeting this Friday at 10 a.m.
I don't think so.
I think that was,
I think you
I think that was
canceled.
an error on the weekly notice,
Is that right?
but we'll confirm and get a notice out. I have not seen anything from John.
Yeah.
Okay, I was under the impression that that was still on for Friday.
I'll take a look again.
I have a feeling it is.
Okay, we'll firm that up.
No committee reports since our last select board meeting. Joanne?
I don't have anything to report. I was unable to attend the sustainability committee meeting. And that wasn't sustainability fair. So, but there is a Hanover Board of Assessors meeting on Wednesday, May 14th.
Yes.
Because you did a huge amount of work and I hear it was.
Yeah, there was a sustainability Earth Week fair, which was a collab between Sustainable Hanover and Dartmouth Sustainability. Is that right? With the
Office with Marcus.
Yes, with Marcus and Jacob. Anyway, there's Earth Week fair and it was pretty wonderful in that a bunch of a bunch of people from different areas of expertise were sharing their practical tips for how you can live sustainably, everything from like composting and how to have healthy soil to how people like the Conservation Commission thinks about land. And there were over 15 tables, there were door prizes and seeds and individuals and families who came by. So that was last Saturday and over at RMS. And I think people left feeling pretty inspired. And even some Dartmouth students came, even though it was at RMS. Jacob was driving a van, which I was impressed by, that they went off campus to come see. The big thing they talked about at the Sustainable Hanover meeting, other than planning the fair, was about the landfill bills at the state level, which sailed by the House, and it looks like the governor is very unsupportive, which would limit expansions of any landfills, which puts our landfill in a little bit of a tricky spot because they had been planning an expansion. And that expansion is to basically move a bunch of stuff out of an unlined section so that they can properly line it. So if they can't expand, that project is made much more complicated. And the urgency to conserve space and maximize what they call airspace in the landfill becomes a priority, which means that our trash may get more expensive. The other thing we learned, because and I don't have his name right here, but he came, you remember his name? Sorry, came from Lebanon, who manages the landfill. He's very nice, very knowledgeable. And he spoke, they actually do take compost at the Lebanon landfill, which I thought a lot of people didn't know. And the only bummer is it can't leave the landfill because all of our compost is contaminated with PFAS, just because it's everywhere in the environment. And so now there are rules that doesn't let it leave. But it's kept out of the landfill, which leaves more space in the landfill, and it's used for cover at the landfill. So, but that's all interesting. If you need a place to take compost, they take it and they keep it separate and they're using it for cover. Yeah, and so we'll find out, actually, I guess, after the Senate goes through. It's like House Bill 171 and 707.
Yeah, I think that, may I?
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize the reality of this solid waste bill passes, landfill passes. We go from an 80 to 100-year life expectancy at the Lebanon landfill to a 4 to 6 year life expectancy. A radical change.
And
With
this-
only one landfill remaining in New Hampshire that can support solid waste, additional solid waste.
And where's that?
I think it's Turnkey in Rochester.
And this is really isn't this bill from the North Country
It was to block
Originally.
to block Casella's?
The thinking seems to be that our state should only need one more landfill every 100 years, so we should do better with trash. That's sort of the rhetoric behind the bill. But yeah, it puts a tremendous squeeze here, and our trash could get much more expensive. So our waste reduction team really has their work cut out for them. Keeping things like compost out of your waste is really important, obviously, because anything we do to divert things from going into the landfill is directly increases the life of the landfill. Yeah, so that was a landfill. That's Sustainable Hanover. That's, I think, the big news there. So join us Earth Week's fair. some concern about what we're gonna do with our trash. Encouraging everyone to compost. The planning board is having a meeting tomorrow here at 7 p.m. And the exciting news is that Christina Hall and Peter Kobaki will be visiting for a workshop to discuss infrastructure asset management. So come and enjoy this. Hanover Bike Walk, first of all, it's Happy Bike Month, it's May. So Happy Bike Month. Our next meeting is Monday, May 12th, at 4 p.m. here, or actually it might be at the Murray Room. The big thing happening is Monday, May 12th at 6 p.m., 6 to 8, is a kickoff of the Sharon Streets Vision Plan Open House. And Carolyn Radish, the consultant from Tool Design, will be here to kick that off. So community members who are interested in airing grievances about where they think things should be improved, ideas for how our streets and sidewalks and paths can be made more accessible for all ages and abilities, should come to this open house. And she'll be going over tools that people use as well as collecting input to kick that off. So that's very exciting.
Can you give the date and time?
Yeah, so that's May 12th. It's a Monday, 6 to 8 p.m. And the plan is for it to be here in this room. Any questions about that? Okay, and a flyer is posted on the front of the town website. So you can, that's a good place to direct people because it's right there on the front page and like the blog post things. Kudos and thank you to Bill Young of Hanover Bike Walk and Hannah Falcone from Parks and Rec. And really Hannah, Bill has been teaching Hannah all of the things that the Hanover Bike Walk has been doing for the bike rodeo. And Hannah did this lion's share of organizing this time. It was really amazing. And we had all these volunteers out this past Sunday for a bike rodeo, lots of little kids, and one of the big highlights. And we thank Sergeant Chris Swain and Anthony Cassell came and gave out bike lights and reflective stickers that are like police badges. Though I'd say your bikes were probably the biggest hits. The kids were like, wow, I like your bikes. And then we had one kid at the end, right, as everyone was sort of leaving, little Spidey kid, learned to ride his bike without his training wheels for the first time. So that was pretty magical. and so we had a lot of jubilation there among the parents. Like, this kid learned to ride his bike. So that was really great. And yeah, thanks to Hanover Police for coming out. This Wednesday is Bike to School Day. It's like bike and roll. If you want to cheer on kids, be hanging out at the Reservoir Roundabout early in the morning, 7:30 to 8. Everyone should be watching for kids, not just on Wednesday, because this is the season. People are really starting to walk and bike to school. The weather's great. So please be careful out there. And then Friday, May 16th, is Curb Your Car Day, also known as Bike to Work Day, also known as Green Key Weekend. Hanover Bike Walk will be sponsoring a demonstration project where there'll be protected bike lanes. They're kind of delineated by cones on Lebanon Street on the way into town around what people call Sand Hill. So people can experience that and give feedback about that. The South Main Street revitalization proposals that had been developed by Carolyn Radish, who's now at Tool Design, along with a town survey were dusted out for the Earth Week fair. And those are now up in the cafe area of the Howe Library. So if you want to see those like big and printed out next to each other, that's where you can see that. And then there's a QR code that goes to the survey, which is on the town website. And there's a website, a short link if you need to type it in. And then the last thing is the WAG Trail, which is the West Lebanon and Hanover Greenway Trail. Feasibility study kicked off. So that's very exciting. And right now, this is just the very earliest stages. A feasibility study is to look at the possibilities of creating a connection between Hanover and West Lebanon along somewhere in the corridor along South Main. And the way the study is going to be done is to look at it in 4 segments, and in each segment to come up with a couple alternatives so that it can be determined what's the most feasible way of designing a trail. So that's what I have. Oof, yeah, exciting stuff. Come Monday night. Talked about it.
Come Tuesday and vote, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Hanover High School, town meeting. Yes,
Oh, yeah,
and the business portion.
And look at them,
Skinny.
skinny, concise,
And what-
good reading, some nice pictures,
What
lots
time?
of good work this year.
What time does
Yes.
the business portion begin?
7 p.m. Like we could do a routine here. Straight man, what time is the business? Yes.
At Hanover High School.
Yes. So thank you very much to all of the town staff. I'm looking at you, Rob, but I know there's many others, Alan, et cetera, and all the department heads who put together the town report. So lots of work. Thank you very much.
And committees.
And committee chairs, yes,
And committees.
And
committees.
Kate's,
yes.
it's Kate's first one, right?
Yeah.
With help from Carrie. With help from Carrie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Carrie remains an active, very strong supportive player in all of this.
Thank her for us, please.
She will be at the early section of town meeting, and I'll acknowledge her there.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else before we adjourn?
We do have a need for non-public, I believe.
We do. Okay, all right.
Have fun.
All right, thank you,
I'll
Kari.
move that, oh no, what did you start, right?
It's like a roll call.
Roll call.
Do we move though? I forget the word.
Let me ask the question a different way. There was some discussions to dealing with personnel matter tonight.
Yes, and I think that we probably have more work to do there.
Okay, so then there is no
So-
need for non-public.
Yes.
Okay, so
yes.
I'll move, we adjourn.
Second. Second, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. All right, we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay.
We have found a couple of hiccups in the town report that weren't in the proof.